World Cup is well and truly underway. There's been some exciting games so far. A couple of dull ones today, but we are excited to watch how our players are going to do. We're back with another one at One Kick from Glory. My name is Clive, and as always, I'm joined by Matthew.
Yes.
And we are going to do something a bit special today. We are going to talk about the World Cup in another episode, but today we wanted to focus on a particular player, a man that is no stranger to the headlines, a man that knows and is always ready. Make sure that he is front page center of all things going on. Of course, I'm talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. And in fact, earlier on today, he set a brand new record of being one of the first players to score in 5 World Cup finals, which is incredible, like a testament to his legacy. But of course, there's a lot that's gone on with him recently. You know, we had that infamous, he's had a really up and down season at Manchester United. It hasn't quite gone according to plan for him. He also had that infamous interview with Piers Morgan. And we're going to talk about that as well. And of course, the breaking news that came out earlier on this week. But to start off with, Matthew, I think let's talk about Ronaldo's sort of achievements at the World Cup. You know, when you look at him as a player, how highly do you rate and revere him with all the achievements that he's done?
It's hard not to have this guy in like your top 10, maybe even your top 5 of maybe not someone who's ever won the tournament, but one who delivers for his country every time when he comes on. I mean, they're even making the quarterfinals, you know, sometimes in other tournaments, semi-finals going on and winning the thing. They're always mentioned as a team that could go far or even win at the start of any tournament. And that's a testament, like, you know, as good as other players are around, other experienced professionals and other young guns coming up, you know, it always circles around that big 7-shaped hole in the team. The captain, the leader, Mr. Ronaldo himself, like, to score at 5 when you think, you know, they normally space every 4 years, and he scored in 5 tournaments every 4 years. That's nuts. That is nuts to think about. He's been on the scene for such a long time, from like the early 2000s to the early 2020s. We're in here now. You know, if he had his way, he'd probably play another World Cup.
Honestly.
If he had his way, even if when he stops playing, he's going to be on that sideline barking the orders. He's too much of a presence and an experience and like a well-beating player not to have in that lineup. So best believe when he eventually does hang up his boots, when he defying of all things possible as he is, he will eventually have to realize that it's catching up with him and he can't do these things as much as he used to do anymore. He will be there. He's not going away without a fight. He loves the game too much. He loves challenging himself. Too much. He could relax and go to somewhere, or he could now go to somewhere, slow down. He's had offers from other places, but he chooses to play at high intensity still, from starting off at Lisbon to Manchester to Spain to Italy to back to Manchester, always at teams trying to go for, different levels of achievement. You can't, whatever you might think of some of the antics on or off the pitch, or how the interviews have gone in the past and, how things have gone this year, you can't question the man's hunger, commitment, desire, and just want to win.
Yeah, I think that's a great summation of Ronaldo's career and what he's achieved. I think what's really interesting to kind of discuss, especially in light of, what's happened in the last few days and the last few, this last few months, if you look at this whole season as a whole, is, expectations for a player and, broken promises or even promises made or even, what he would have, perceived to have happened this season. Now, I always think back to summer, Erik ten Hag first came in. There was a lot of kind of question marks around Ronaldo's future, mainly because, with how things ended with Ralf Rangnick in charge, and, some of the comments that he made in relation to the player, you kind of got the feeling that if the Man United board were going to take that advice on seriously, and the plan originally was for Rangnick to come and stay on board as like a football advisor, maybe even like a director of football, I guess, type role, and kind of help Man United rebuild and, kind of make some better investments in the playing staff and have a project going forward. Obviously, that didn't work out because they got rid of him and kind of scrapped that. But his recommendations about Ronaldo at the time made it feel like, from the outside, he didn't really have much of a future at Manchester United. It felt like the time is coming to an end. And of course, your club, Chelsea, were sort of, or Todd Bowley in particular, I should say, was kind of giving a lot of indication in the press, flirting with the idea of bringing him in, and kind of seemed quite keen on it. And obviously that didn't quite happen at that time. Things can always change. But what I found quite interesting, especially in the interview that Ronaldo had with Piers, is him talking about, disrespect and kind of broken promises. And I think for you, when you look back to last summer and all the things that transpired, do you feel like it was sort of clear, especially from how Ten Hag was answering some of the questions put to him about Ronaldo and his almost sort of reluctance to give a clear answer, trying to kind of avoid the question and trying to be as diplomatic in the press? Do you feel like a lot of that has contributed to, Ronaldo making the decision to go on Piers Morgan's show and kind of give his side of things?
It's hard not to think that kind of way because, at the end of the day, he's come back to this club. We could have gone literally anywhere. He's come back to this club, wanting to deliver and bring him back to better times, whether that be a title or some competing for a trophy. I don't know exactly what that was. But, you don't bring someone like that back to just, simply just to sell the shirts, which we're always going to do anyway. I genuinely think, the way I'm looking at it, you could accuse it of a player trying to think they're bigger than the club. But with someone like that in the team who knows what it feels like to win on multiple occasions, he would like to think that, the club has that interest of where if you're coming in, we're going to be competing more, we're going to be fighting more. We go to these clubs like, your Cities, your Champions Leagues, and we're going to go further than just that little bit further. Maybe even win a cheeky little trophy. They haven't won a trophy for the best part of, 7 years? Nearly 7 years, which for a club of United stature is a worry.
Pretty embarrassing.
It's a worry, they haven't. The last trophy they won was under Mourinho, and with all the things that Mourinho is saying now, you may just wonder, was he telling the truth? He might have been right all along. He's probably, he wants to be useful. I'm not exactly sticking up for him. I'm just taking from his, his perspective. He wants to be considered useful and helpful, and to try and help all those tons of other players coming around. They've got the likes of Sancho in, they've got the likes of Alanga coming in. What was the new guy they signed this week? They got ripped apart from doing too many skills. Someone, I think Ten Hag was not happy about him doing.
Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony. And Rashford's now come back. Part of the England squad. His form's now picked up. He now remembers he's a footballer and not a politician.
And of course, they've got Garnacho from the academy, who's performing so well.
What something is happening there. There's a very small kind of upturn in, playing quality there, and his age aside, but his hunger is still there. And I feel like he wants to be like a part of that. So it's almost as if what was said behind doors is not what was said by Ten Hag in the first place. Or maybe just Ten Hag just didn't. Or maybe it's a case of looking at it, Ten Hag just didn't feel like he was part of his plans at the end of the day, and that's what probably prompted him to go and do what he did. And if you're going to go to anyone and air your grievances, if anyone's going to allow you to, talk that talk and just let it all out, it is Piers Morgan.
And let's be honest, Piers Morgan knew exactly what he was doing with some of the questions, how he phrased it. He loved it.
He loves
he loves attention.
He does. He does it. It's they're both in that room. They probably got on like a house on fire because their personality. When it comes to wanting that attention and just flattering that ego, they're both competing with each other. They might
100%.
they might hate each other in the end of it, but he's a great person to just sit. And if you have a problem that you can't tell to no one else, you can tell it to him because he's thinking that this is great for me. This is fantastic for me. I've had Andrew Tate, I've had Ronaldo. Like two
polarizing characters.
With
a massive fan base.
Massive following, faithful following. He's eating good for Christmas this year. Let's just say that.
He definitely is. And I think that's a key thing as well. It's just that the platform he went on to, he knew exactly what it would do. Before we go into kind of some of the other things that was said and obviously what's happened as a result, do you think that looking at how things have transpired, obviously with the summer and the statements made by Ten Hag and obviously Ronaldo feeling like at boardroom level, which is quite interesting with everything that's happened since, that the club let him down, some promises were broken, do you feel like they should have been quite direct and clear with him that he didn't have a future? Because for me, I look at the situation and it reminds me a lot of Mesut Ozil in his last year at Arsenal, where from how things went the back end of the previous season, you knew Ozil's time at Arsenal was done. There was no more redemption. It was over. And unfortunately, the player didn't leave in the summer. He kind of dug his heels in. They stayed. I don't know if they thought maybe they could outlast the manager. Maybe they thought he might change his mind. But for me, looking at how at that situation, it was clear that he was never going to play for Arsenal again. He was finished. They stayed, got a good payout, and then got the contract terminated in the end. But do you feel like, in a way, how Arsenal were quite clear to Ozil, his agent might say they weren't, but the indications were quite clear that he didn't have a future. Do you think Man United should have actually done that with Ronaldo and said, you know what, we love you, thanks for coming back, but we want to move in a different direction now with Ten Hag. He's got a youthful approach with players he wants to bring in, and we think it's time for you to look to move on.
I almost think that they banked on his love for the club, his supposed love for, like, one of the club that he kind of broke out in. I think they kind of relied on that kind of rose-tinted, spectacled view that he would see it through to, play for the fans. See all the little kids with the Ronaldo shirts, Viva Ronaldo. The amount of kids that still do that Sue thing, which is still annoying even now. It was annoying once, it's still annoying now. I mean, someone tried to do a joke and they said Sue in it. I was like, good God, Ronaldo, what have you done? What have you done? So I think they wanted to play into his better nature, thinking he might actually, look at this and be like, he's loved here. He's going to be considered a legend here. He's won so much here. He's come back and, he was the second top scorer last year, was considered, it wasn't his best season, and I think they still managed to finish on top 4 somehow. That's still an achievement in some sort of ways. I think they banned to the fact that that's what happened this season. Now you can try and maybe deliver on that with the next season, albeit under a different manager. We're not so sure whether he wants you to stay, but can you do it? Now that might be all right for someone who will know their place maybe as a squad player, where they realise they're only going to come on now and then, mainly play cup games. Play those Champions League group games where you go somewhere and you're already through, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that he sees himself as that. He still sees himself as someone who's on the main stage who can deliver. I mean, he started for Portugal. He's still their captain. They're going to start him regardless. And for it, all his hard work on the pitch, he got his goal. He got his goal. So he's like thinking, I shouldn't have to answer to anyone. My track record proves itself. You should be... I don't need you as much as you need me, because I was your top scorer. I was one of your best players last year. So what more can you, at boardroom level, you have to give me something concrete to deal with and not kind of change, perceivingly, in his opinion, change what you've done to prompt this leave during the middle of an international football tournament. Does he, they could have been a little bit clearer and been like, your role might shrink. You're not going to be as much as good as you think you are. You're not the future of this club. We've been not only reason you just invested a lot in a little kid called Jadon Sancho. He needs to start coming good. Marcus Rashford needs to come back. He's now coming good. We got, talents in Alanga and Anthony. They need to come good. Yeah, they're part of Ten Hag's structure, his vision. You might be, it's like circles. That's his inner circle. You're on the outer circle. And you need to kind of, as good as you are, you've got to realize your time is up. We move on. Look at the comparison is in F1. The Mercedes' only win came from George Russell. Hamilton didn't get a win. Compared to last year, 2021, unless something changes for next year, he's going to have to realize that for all what he's given to the team and to the sport, it comes and goes. But does he know that?
But also the thing is when you're like and I think that's a great comparison. Looking at Lewis and Ronaldo, especially how coming to the end of their careers. Like when you're a supreme competitor and you're a renowned champion, there is a difficulty in not just in letting go, but because you always believe there's going to be another mountain, another horizon to reach, another point where you can push into another level. So I think for both of them, that there is that kind of belief where you might have had a bad season, but you always back yourself. I mean, the fact that, like I said, Ronaldo, like we said at the start of the show, Ronaldo, bagged a goal for Portugal to make him, 5 World Cups in a row as international scoring, first time ever in history. Like, it shows that the competitor, he just believes in himself. And I think, maybe he's looking at it as I can have my last dance somewhere, maybe even this season. And then next year, maybe pick an easier league to go into. I don't know, but it's going to be quite interesting to see how it all plays out. Do you think that the situation has really affected his legacy at Man United, or do you think he'll be all right?
It's the way he's left is not anything to do with, I want to say, the fans. I think it's the fan. This has got nothing to do with the fans, and they're not going to take much of responsibility of this. It's not even entirely their fault. I just think, well, it didn't work out the way they thought they had. It didn't work out a way, and maybe, just maybe, I don't think it's going to damage it too much. United fans at this current moment in time, well, most football fans at this moment, when your team is not where you want it to be, you always have nostalgia to look back to. Okay, so you can always look back at, United fans will go on, well, they'll bang on about 1999. They'll bag on about how many trophies they won. They'll bag on about how all these players that they had that delivered under Fergie, the Busby Babes and things like that. They'll bang on about that. So he's very much integral to that legacy. As much as I hate to admit that 2008 Man United team were a menace.
Yeah.
They were dangerous and they were horrible to play against. We nearly had toe to toe. We nearly had the measure of them on many occasions. That Champions League final, we should have won. But it didn't matter, man. They had the man at the top. Avram Grant must have been shaking in his boots at the prospect of facing up against that team. Absolutely shaking in his boots. He was integral to when they were not just winning, but when they were dominant. That partnership with him and Ronaldo, bringing up players like Nani and other players around them, like Tevez as well. What a front three alone that is. That's mad. I don't think he's gonna be. His reasons for. I don't think he hates the club. I think he hates the regime. He hates the people that are in charge. That they've let him down.
I thought it was quite interesting when he was talking about the facilities and how things hadn't changed. So when he was, when he was a youth team player when he was last day when he was younger, that's quite shocking to me.
Fine, I mean, well,
quite shocking to me.
How much did he still? Did it feel like he was telling the truth in it? I don't know. You just.
Because the thing is, facilities,
it sounds bad.
Yeah, it doesn't have to mean like literally they still have the old dumbbells and gym. Because some people took it literally like, the gym equipment's still the same and whatever. I mean, so for example, like with Arsenal, London Colney, it hasn't really been revamped since it got built. When it had a revamp a couple of years ago, but it hasn't really been. When you look at other teams like Leicester's academy. At Crystal Palace's facilities in their academy,
very nice.
To yours, Chelsea, you guys, and Man City now because of what they've done. They've invested a lot of money, and their academies look really good. Have probably got better facilities than Arsenal's because a lot of Arsenal's academy development was done back when we sold Anelka back in 1999, 2000 season, right? So Madrid. That's where the money came from that paid for that. So a lot of the work. So obviously, when you think about it that way, maybe he's looking at a training ground thinking we've not when you come from Madrid and Juventus, are leaders in sports science. So, they will have incredible facilities there.
Next level.
Real Madrid, they are always going to have the best of the best, right? So when you've come from those environments to come back to United, it's probably like, bruv, really?
Right.
And we've seen pictures of the stadium where like bits of it are a bit falling apart, need some kind of tender love and care. So I can kind of maybe... I hope it's not literally the dumbbell on the treadmill. Because I'll be like, brother, you lot broke. Come on, man, you can afford
go to Pure Gym or something like that. Just Pure Gym down the road, innit? I think he's when you're used to training operating at a high level, second best, just won't do, and he doesn't believe in second best. I can understand that. I can completely understand that. The question is where he goes next.
Yeah, that is a big question. Obviously, his contract got ripped up at Manchester United. He has been made a free agent, which I remember I was having a conversation about this whole situation with someone on Sunday about this whole Ronaldo situation and the interview. And I felt at the time that this was a strategic move by him, of course, by his agent, to get him out of the club, as soon as possible. And of course, within a couple of days later, the contract's been ripped up and he's now a free agent. And, when you think about it logically, like his, Mendes, his agent, he doesn't mess about. Everything that man does is deliberate, strategic. They don't do things by chance. So anyone that thinks that, this was a mistake. They knew what they were doing. It reminded me of when Van Persie did his little letter to the fans, to Arsenal, which was clearly like a public declaration of get me out of this club. They're not matching my ambition. Fair enough, it worked. He got him to Man United and
got him his Premier League.
Can't really complain. So, like, it was really clear from how he did it and when he did it and what he was saying, how he was talking, his demeanour, the whole thing. That, like, look, I'm done. I want out. You guys promised me some stuff. You didn't live up to it. Now, the big question is, where does he go to next? Now, I always look at the bookmakers because they always have an acute sense as to where he might go. There's a list of clubs that I've got a list of clubs here that they've said. I'm going to say one which is not a list of clubs which is on the bookmakers, which is one that Piers Morgan will be very happy with. He's the one who suggested Arsenal. I don't see it. Many reasons. It wouldn't fit what we're doing. Our project right now.
Might wreck the dressing room.
Might mess the dressing room up. The only logical reason I could see us potentially entertaining that idea would be the wages. If it's a low enough wage, like I'm talking like 200,000 a week less, which is a lot.
What was he on before?
Close to 500 right now. So I think that's what people say. But anyway, he's on a lot right now. So something like that. And then it will be only a short-term deal until the summer because, as a club, we're doing really well, but our strikers aren't really scoring a lot of goals at Arsenal. So that's one area we could look to strengthen. But I wouldn't want him because I just don't think it would make sense. It just would be too strange. He's a Man United legend. To play for Arsenal would just be too strange. I know our players have done it, but their players don't really do it when there's, it'd be too much. So there's that. The team that I think, the three names that I find most intriguing on this list, for different reasons. Chelsea. And the implication with that is, what would you do with Aubameyang? Because it would just be another mess up there.
Doesn't matter. He wants some shirt sales.
Newcastle, and again, that one, they've got the money, but it doesn't really fit what they're trying to do.
Eddie Howe wouldn't have
it.
But
again, when you look at numbers of goals, when Wilson's out, Chris Wood, good reliable striker as he is, he doesn't really score many goals.
Yeah.
So there's a goal deficit there.
He does suit a Newcastle shirt, though. So when you think about it, Juventus colours.
And then the last one of the interesting ones is Paris Saint-Germain. Now, that's the one. In the summer, when there was all this talk of Mbappe going to Madrid, I was very much in favour of them doing that, purely from a footballing purist perspective. Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar on the same team. I thought this could be the dream season. We finally get to see them two together. Obviously, it didn't work out then. They could still do it. Mbappe, there's been lots of talk of him not really wanting to play through the middle, which he does right now. They could try and make it work, but I feel like it could derail their season. They're having a really good run of it.
Yeah.
But I want to circle back to Chelsea, and then we'll touch on Newcastle. But would you, if you were to approach that conversation, and I know that Todd Bowley was a massive fan, he wanted him. It's part of the reason why Thomas Tuchel ultimately got fired, because they just disagreed on how to do the transfer business, and that particular deal was a big one.
Plus, he wanted to buy United. He originally wanted to buy United as well.
Oh,
originally he wanted to buy United, and then they got offered I'm going to say the better option. I'm going to say that.
So do you feel then that it's a deal that you would that he'll do, and how would you see it working, and would you be happy with that as a deal?
I wouldn't. Not now. Back in August, I would. Back in August, no. Especially knowing that both our main strikers, I've said this before, both our strikers have gone. Lukaku's gone. Werner's gone. Yes, we got Aubameyang, but he hasn't scored for yonks. Yes, we've got Sterling, but he hasn't scored for a while. And yes, we've got Havertz, who doesn't score at all.
And you got Brozier.
And then we got Brozier, who is not ready yet. He needs time, but he's... At least he's trying, and we didn't. He's a grassroots from the ground up, and the fans, we all love him. He's such a great young lad. He's got a bright future ahead of him, providing he stays fit. He will get you goals. He will get you goals. He might even be that catalyst of discipline we might need in the team. Because his drive, he's used to winning and wanting, kind of expecting the same of a group of players who know how to win. We have a group of players who've won Premier Leagues, League Cups, FA Cups, European Cups, international cups. We've got players who've won all of those. Some of them won all of them. So it's weird to see us in a place where we are. We're currently 8th in the league. So far behind, everyone else, 3 losses on the bounce, which is relegation form. It might be a catalyst, a thing where he brings up other players to kind of play to a higher standard, but it could also make things worse, where he was down there tools and sulk even more. I do not know where the club it is right now. It almost feels like some kind of approach is needed where maybe dogging on them is not working. I mean, they had one half decent performance against Man City in the Carabao Cup, which I'm not too concerned about, but the league is what I'm concerned about. But a different approach might be kind of needed from the manager to kind of get these players to play. I mean, with a manager like Potter, there's that risk where you're going to be losing more games than you think, because he's still, in some ways, learning his craft at the moment, and it's a risk of having a club like Chelsea that are used to being in that top 4 bracket. Now we're trying to get back into that. The teams ahead of us are doing what they can to kind of establish themselves and stay there, but we'll get into that a bit later. If we're desperate, if it comes to that January mark and we take him on for only 6 months, I'm willing to swallow my pride, have him in that shirt for 6 months, get us back into the top 4 and we start again. Because a lot of these players, anyway, it'd be a good idea as an exodus, because he'll go, a whole other bunch of players will go, and then Graham Potter, should he still be there, which I think if we invest into him, we kind of should be, can do what he wants, because he's not working with a team that's his. I can't really say that much of players that are there he would have. So who's that going to be? Ronaldo won't be. He's going to be 38, 39. So if we're desperate enough, if the goals come up, we start back in the Premier League. Our first game's Bournemouth. We don't like playing Bournemouth. We've got, Nottingham Forest on New Year's Day. The relegation teams, I think we're playing a few relegation teams. They're going to start realising they're in trouble. So everyone around us is a danger at the moment. So I'll take him reluctantly, I'll take him for about 6 months. But that's it. He's not staying. And get a few shirt sales after that. That'd be a good little bit of a good bit of PR. I know, why not? Always a good thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the move, isn't it? Like, as long as it's not a long-term deal, 6 months is enough time, or at least let's say till the summertime. That helps him get an opportunity to kind of show United what they're missing.
Yep. Get
some more goals on his Premier League total. And also maybe fire, I mean, you're in Champions League, aren't you?
We are in Champions League.
That's what I see him going to a Champions League club, personally. That's why I find some of the teams he's linked to quite interesting. Obviously, Newcastle, they're not there, but he could fire them into the Champions League. That could be interesting. But I think he'd want to go to a team in the Champions League right now. And I think they have a club already lined up. Because they wouldn't have done what they did if they didn't have a deal. Maybe not signed. Definitely not signed, but they have something.
Something's been planned ahead of time.
I remember at the time, what's quite interesting is that I thought like he couldn't go to the MLS because of all that, the historical court case stuff. But actually, it turned out back in July that new case, the case that had been settled out of court, and then a new judge took it on back in 2019. This summer, July, it's been squashed, it's been dismissed and thrown out of court. So he is free to go to the MLS if he so chose. But when I look at what Bale's done over there, and I look at what other players like, Ibrahimovic, Omri, Javinko, Gerrard, and that stuff, I feel like, not quite. I think he's still got a bit more to offer in Europe. So I'm intrigued to see where he goes. I mean, Napoli and Roma are also linked to him, and reuniting with Mourinho could be interesting. The team that's not been mentioned at all, and it's the last team we'll say on him, and then we'll kind of close. But like the other team, which could be really interesting considering what the issues they've got in their squad up front right now, is Real Madrid. Benzema's injured, missing the whole World Cup, which is just a disappointment.
Such a shame.
But he's out. There's a gap there. That could be a move he makes. Could be.
He'll be welcomed back with open arms, I reckon. Yeah. He was God there. For a lot of people, he probably still is. I
don't know if there'll be open arms, but they'll take him back. I think there's some fans that wouldn't want him because of the circus that surrounds him. But That could be interesting.
He went to the, yeah. So at the end of the day, if Florentino Perez says it, if he says it walks like a duck, it cracks like a duck, it's a duck.
Especially a short-term deal.
Very, short term. Not waste too much money.
And there was a lot of talk that he's been travelling a lot to Spain throughout the year, obviously off the back of the tragic death of his son. There's been a lot of talk of him going to Spain quite a bit. So maybe there might be something in that. There's no rumours, there's no links so far, but I think that could be an interesting curveball. I think for me, Madrid, Chelsea, or Paris Saint-Germain, or even obviously Italy, again, Napoli or Roma, any of those could be interesting. Roma wouldn't make sense because they've got quite a lot of options up front. Napoli, they'll take the extra firepower. Why not? But we'll see what he does. They'll pay him well. And we'll see what he does as well. I guess the final thing on Ronaldo is, when we looking at his career, his achievements, everything he's done, and what he's gonna still do in the World Cup and going forward, do we think that he will be known as one of the great strikers of the game? I mean, he's obviously, there's massive debates about him being one of the great players alongside Lionel Messi, but obviously he started off as a winger or / wide forward. But do you think in time people will kind of recognise him as like an archetypal centre forward, in that they'll say to younger players, look at this guy, model your game around him? Do you think that's going to happen in years to come?
Many years. Many years. He's, like you said, he's not an out and out, natural striker. He kind of molded in, but if anything, that's kind of more of a compliment to him, because he kind of molded into that role from a different position. He could still play in that position there if he wanted, but most of his goals came from, they realised how tall he is, how quick he is, how strong he is. He's got that hang time in the air. He stays up in the air forever. He's got his attributes kind of suggested he should be a striker. The same thing when, going off topic slightly, with like Bale, even though he was playing as a left back, they moved him forward because his attributes naturally spring to him going forward. He's much more, and look at him now. You could argue the same thing for Trent. Maybe he should be going further forward too. He's got the attributes. He's quick. He's got a good foot. His dead ball is impressive. He can't defend to save his life. Move him forward, then the debate is done. If you're talking about great out-and-out strikers, I'm not so sure. But if you're talking about modeling around what he done to kind of work his way into that role and break all these crazy records, it's hard to do. It's hard to find somebody better in a way.
So when I say that, like, if you think about, Ibrahimovic, Thierry Henry, both of them have said numerous times that they have heavily been inspired by El Fenomeno, R9, Ronaldo from Brazil. They've said that, looking at him, a lot of the elements of their game, they looked at what Ronaldo did and tried to implement it in their own way. So for Ibrahimovic, that's all about the dribbling, there's skills there, and being like clinical around the box. With Omri, it's just that explosiveness in his movement, explosiveness with the ball, off the ball, without the ball. So, that's one striker that's influenced the whole generation of strikers. And in fact, anyone that most 90s babies would say that Brazilian R9 is a better striker for them, a better player for them than Cristiano Ronaldo. Me personally, I rate the Brazilian Ronaldo well ahead of Cristiano. But that's just because of stylistically, I feel like R9, what he was doing at the ages and for how long he did it for, it's just.
And he won a World Cup quite young as well. Like, he influenced. Level. And again, he was, like you say, he influenced in so many different ways. Plus, with him and the team that he was around, that late 90s, early 2000 Brazil team, they had fun when they were playing. When you watch them, they were samba. They were lambada every single time, tinkering around. You had so much. The things what they were doing was, obviously it's part and parcel now, but what they were doing then, especially on their way to win the World Cup, that team. Yeah. If you're talking a 10 out of 10 team to watch and to what you want to aspire to have in the cohesion they had, the fun that they had. Obviously they took it seriously, but they were never, you'd never thought they would have a panic or a problem. And just the passing they were doing, just quick, fast, just here, there, everywhere. It's like watching, like a foxtrot. I tell you right now, people on Strictly will watch them play and be like, we need to have the rhythm that they have. We need to have their cohesion, that how they just move with their feet and stuff like that. I mean, I would love to watch them samba. Love to watch them kind of samba. That'd be sick. But CR7, the game's moved on from then. Now everyone's now doing that. Now adopting to different things. For Ronaldo, you look at someone. It's more down to belief. I think one of his things is having that self-belief, which is a very hard thing to kind of, get into someone. It takes time. Sometimes it could take someone a day, it could take someone a year for another person. But the one person that he always tries to be is himself. He always wants to be himself at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, to go out and prove to himself that he can still go out there and do it. And the numbers are crazy. The numbers back it up. They don't lie. He's constantly challenging himself, and then you'll come to a point where your career where you had 2 spells at United, a spell at Madrid and a spell at Juventus. Not a lot of footballers can say that. Not only just going there and playing there, but being successful, winning every time you go somewhere, and also winning an international tournament in the Euros of 2016, barking orders when you're on the pitch, off the pitch, barking orders at the team, as a leader. Today, on the make a note of when he was singing the national anthem with tears in his eyes. He must have felt a bit of relief of knowing that he was out, and the club that he loved was not the club that he remembered anymore. Things have changed, things have moved on. Maybe he might be realizing that the time at the top might be slowly coming to an end, and this is one of his last chances to kind of deliver on that. And he goes, I'm going to make the most of this. So maybe a very small part is that, maybe I am defeating myself. Me's beating me. So it seems to me that this is the time where he's going to be like, if it's time to go for the World Cup, it's now. Right now.
Yeah, I mean, this should be his last World Cup. I mean, you never know. He might find a way on the plane for the next one, but this should be his last World Cup. I expect it to be both him and Messi's final World Cups. And, football is going to be it's going to be such a vacuum when they finally both retire. And I'm so glad that, they had the magazine cover together. It's a Vogue, did it? Annie Leibovitz with her typical grayscale bluish color thing, which always looks a bit weird. But love that they got honoured in that way. 2 of the best players ever. You can argue which one you prefer. There is a right answer. Yeah. And if you said the Portuguese guy, you're wrong. But I'm just glad that we've been able to witness 2 absolute giants. I think there's an incredible video on YouTube. I'm going to link it on Twitter. I'm going to link it in the description. So if you're listening, you can watch it. If you're watching, I'll have it pop up here somewhere. But which is just showing you it's a mashup of both of them, Ronaldo and Messi, and it's just breathtaking. Like those 2, the things they did for so long, for multiple clubs, and even the fact that Messi's having another renaissance in Paris. Cristiano, last season had his renaissance at United. This season, not so much, but there's still time. Season's not over. He could surprise us all. So. I think on that note, I think it's all worked out quite well for him. And obviously we've had the news as well, the really seismic news of Manchester United apparently being up for sale. But I do think people might be reading a bit much into that statement, because there was Avram Glazer, one of the brothers, was asked about selling Man United, and he used this phrase: "We're looking at strategic opportunities." Future of the club. Now, for me, that's interesting, because if you're going to sell a club, just say the word, yeah, it's up for sale. The phrase he used, and it's why I'm quite intrigued by, and the timing of it is all quite well. So, Man United fans, if any of you out there are watching and you really hated Ronaldo for his interview with Piers Morgan, thank him. Because maybe him saying things the way he said it is what's prompted them to decide it's time to move on or seek some financial investment. And, there was rumours that Amazon were looking at buying them, potentially Apple. Initially, I didn't really think Apple buying a football team made sense. But if it's a strategic investment, and it means, for example, like Man United games get streamed on Apple TV Plus for free, if you have a subscription, that's quite interesting. If it means then that the Premier League comes over to Apple TV Plus, that could be quite interesting. If it helps, an already massive club reach out to an even increased audience, because Apple have been investing a lot into sports content. So they have the MLS, on there. They've obviously got NBA Pass,
Ted Lasso.
some seasons, Ted Lasso, the football series, and of course they've got the MLS. MLS the whole season is on Apple TV this year. MLB's been on there, and they've done some really good innovative stuff there. Of course, the basketball, NBA. So it's interesting to see what they do.
Future is now, guys.
So we could see, but we'll touch on that another time. It's not a conversation for today. We'll see who ends up buying them, whether it is the feared rulers of the World Cup, or whether it's another investment group out of somewhere else, or whether it's a British billionaire or another American. We'll find out. But, it's Ronaldo's world and we're all living in it. And that's it for us. And we'll see you guys again next time.
Safe.
Boom.